ready to draw a Mickey Mouse here. Whoa, look at these faces. Let's do this here. All right. Now what we're going to be doing today, gang, in the art world, technically, is what they call a portrait. A portrait, by definition, is a picture or a representation of a face. This can also include a sculpture. First thing we need to do is put down the main shape of the character's head. And this is pretty easy. Going all the way back to the 1920s, the favorite shape of an animator has always been the circle. It is the easiest shape to sketch, and also, this is the easiest shape to animate by making it larger and smaller, moving it back and forth through space. Now I'm going to go first, and you folks follow along with me on that big movie screen. All right, here we go. It's cartoon time. Now in the middle of that great big piece of paper, I want you to very lightly, and that's the key to this sketch business, keep this thing feather light. Lightly sketch in a circle. I say make it as big as an orange. If you go really tiny with this, it will get trickier. Your features will start bumping into each other. And whatever you do, don't stress about making a perfect circle. This is a sketch. In fact, I'm sure you're noticing your pencil doesn't even have an eraser. Here's the thing, you really don't use one when you're sketching anyway. At this point, this is about building shapes. If you don't like your drawing, don't start over. Here's what you do. Instead, just fix what you don't like about it by drawing over it. Stay in the drawing. If it's too flat on one side, take a moment, round it out. Make it the way you want it to be. Or if it's too small, make the whole thing bigger. Keep reworking and adjusting this. Something that might really help you, and this is totally the real deal, don't hold the board straight up and down like a writing desk the whole time. Turn it every so often. Use it to make your straights and your curved lines. If you're making a weird move with your wrist, you're probably making a weird line. Animators draw these discs, which you can rotate while they're sketching, just for that reason. Look at this, you're doing it, people. This is awesome. All right, step number 2. I'm going to have a few guidelines on here. This is going to make this whole thing a lot easier. From the top of Mickey's head here to the bottom here, I'm going to divide this in half right down the center. This is going to help us put those eyes on straight. That's a huge deal when you're drawing a face. And I'm also going to go right to left with another guideline. Basically, I'm putting a big plus sign on top of this. This shows me the center of my shape right here. That's where the nose is going to go. Now, Mickey's nose is an oval. This is kind of like a circle, except it got squashed. It's shorter and wider. Other than that, it is pretty much the same shape. To get this going, I'm going to start right in the center, take a curved line and press it up against the middle. That's going to be the top of his nose right there. And then, to turn this into the oval, just bring these lines down the sides, and you connect them. This is the first real difference between an older Mickey and a newer Mickey. Mickey nowadays, his nose is a little boxier and it comes down further. Mickey of the 20s has this smaller, thinner nose. Way back in the day, they used to draw Mickey and Minnie's nose exactly the same. Now she has this smaller, thinner nose. He's got a little bit boxier one. He's changed a bit over the years. I'll point these things out as we go. Now over the nose, I'm going to add his snout line. This is really easy. In fact, to make this super easy, just copy the line of the nose you just drew. His nose is at the end of this little snout, which from this front view would be pointed right at us. This will create a slight sense of depth. His eyes are going to sit on this in just a moment. This whole thing is totally not going to get any harder than this either. This is the eye of the storm, people. This is as hard as it gets. All right, now for his smile. This is a character-defining feature. Mickey's smile sits in the center of this guideline right here. This is a large, stretched-out letter U. In fact, look at the curve of your circle. Just copy that. Follow it, nice and round. Goes up to the center of the nose. That's how big this smile is. According to the Walt Disney Company, the biggest descriptor of the character Mickey Mouse is optimism. They say he always looks on the bright side of things, and he is almost always seen with a smile on his face. All right, now to really punch this up, I'm going to add what we call smile lines. In the corners of his mouth, I'm going to add these little C curves. In fact, everybody smile right now and see what happens. You get these little creases in the corners of your mouth. That's what you just drew. Animators love these. They frame up a mouth and they draw attention to it as it smiles and frowns. This helps show emotion of the character to the audience on the screen. These are looking great. Now, when we draw Mickey, for the most part, this company likes him drawn with an open mouth smile. This makes him look happier, almost like he's laughing as he smiles. And graphically, This makes the smile a bigger shape. It's not just a line anymore, it's a shape, and it's easier to notice when you look at the character. Now to open his mouth, I'm going to put a big letter U right under here. I want this to be wider than his nose. So I'm just going to tick mark this off. And you play a game of connect the dots with a curve. This is the next real big difference between an older Mickey and a newer Mickey. Newer Mickey, his mouth fits perfectly under his nose. His nose, eyes, and mouth are in a perfect stripe. This older guy's got a bigger mouth. It's wider. His mouth has gotten smaller and his nose has gotten bigger over the years. Now to make this look like a mouth, I'm going to add a little bit of detail. There's two things I'm going to do. First, I'm going to draw his tongue. This is just two hills. One curve in front of the other. There you go. And underneath this, to make the bottom of the drawing more solid, I'm going to add his lower lip. This is really simple. Just copy the line of the mouth. Start in your center line there. Just follow that mouth line and anchor this to the circle. This lip is going to do whatever that mouth is doing. This is coming down, this is coming down. This thing should look like a very, very happy golf ball right about now. And the last thing you need on the bottom of the face are his cheeks. Mickey and Minnie almost have a permanent smile all the time, just the way they draw these alone. These are very round and full, and they really frame up this mouth nicely. Now remember the smile lines you drew? Right above that curve, draw another curve just like it. Up and over. This is now the bottom of his cheek. That's the top of it. And these are bending because his mouth is pushing these up. Same on this side. Then just close this off. Go from the lip to the cheek. Keep this as round as you can. Try to avoid any straight lines in here. There we go. Mr. Mickey Mouse first debuted in a cartoon called Steamboat Willie. This premiered on November 18th, 1928 at the Colony Theater in New York. This was a really big deal because this was the first cartoon to feature synchronized sound. Walt Disney was the first man to ever record a soundtrack specifically for a piece of animation. A major achievement at the time. All right, this next step is huge. We're going to put his eyes on. This thing is going to stop being a shape and some lines. You're going to see this little face looking at you. Now his eyes, these are ovals. They're very similar to the nose you drew, except these go up and down. And like I said, they sit on that snout line. I'm going to draw this one first. Starting on the snout, just take a nice tall curved line here. Set it right there. Just like a parenthesis. Think of it that way. Just a curve. And then you need another one over here. This should look like a surfboard stuck in the sand, not a tombstone. Whole thing is these are curved lines, not straight. Design-wise, that makes a world of difference. Same thing over here, just do the same thing. Ta-da. And then, to go old school, I'm going to color these in all black. Originally, Mr. Mouse here was designed as a black and white character. Now, as the years progressed, they started making movies and cartoons in color. And as they did this, they designed their characters differently. In fact, if you look at Donald and Goofy, other characters that were added on, they all have white eyes with pupils in them. Now, Walt didn't want to change the look of Little Mickey here. There are several cartoons where Mickey's eyes are all black and the other characters are not. It wasn't until the year 1940 when they put him in the movie Fantasia they redesigned him. The animators always wanted to do this because it's easier to show which direction he's looking by moving those pupils. If you look at the earlier Mickey cartoons, his whole eyes are moving around his head shape to show where he's looking, making it a lot more difficult to draw. The last thing we need on the face is what's called a character mask. Around his eyes, there's this big M-shaped arch. And this is something that definitely comes out of the 20s. I'm going to go to the top of the head, right on my center line, and I'm going to sketch in a very curved letter V. Keep these curvy. That's important. And then to finish this, a lot easier than it looks. Right where you left off, just darken that circle in, follow it along. And as you get over the cheek, curve down to it, and close off the side. There we go. Again, this is right out of the 20s. Back in this time period, these were black and white characters. They only had two colors to paint them. They had gray tones and ink washes for their backgrounds, but the characters were black and white. And this pushed the darker areas of the character's face away from the eyes so you could see them. If all of Mickey's face was colored in that dark tone, you wouldn't see his eyes at all. thing we need to add are the mouse ears. Now these are just 2 circles. There is a trick to this though. You really got to get these in the right spot. You put these too high or too low, this will not look like a Disney mouse. And man, are they picky about this. Here's how to do this. Go to the center of little Mickey's face and very lightly sketch in a letter V. This is roughly a 45-degree angle if you're one of those math types. Most of us artsy types are not math types. And there, that's where the ears go. Now these are circles, just like that main shape you drew. They're half the size. Think from the center to the top. So loosen up, get that arm moving. We're building a new shape. Here we go. We're not putting detail on top of one. The bigger the shape, the bigger the arc you need. So use that arm. Your wrist is good for detail and stuff. This is good for building. Big part of learning to draw is learning how your arm and your wrist pivot to make the mark you want. It's a lot like sculpture. I like to sculpt also. It's one of my favorite things. Now if we were just drawing Mickey Mouse here, people, we'd be done. But no, we're drawing Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse. And this guy wears a hat. Now we first meet Mickey Mouse, the beginning of this awesome cartoon. He's in the pilot house of an old steamboat. He's driving the boat, he's whistling this very upbeat tune, and he's rocking the captain's hat as he does this. Now to start the hat, I'm going to draw the hat band first. Get this going, it's 2 lines. Bring these right up the inside of the ear. Going vertical, people. It's a tube, basically, what we're drawing. And then you connect these with a curve. And as you do this, look at the curve of his head. See that curve? Copy that as much as you can. You want the feeling that this is sitting on top of this. Hats are tricky. It's easy to make it look like a hat's floating over a head. Now with the front of the hat, there is a visor that comes towards us. This is the exact same shape you drew for one of his eyes. Right here in the front. Curve line, connect them. I'm going to shade this in. This is the biggest challenge in drawing Mickey, one of them, putting a hat on him. The animator that taught me how to draw this guy said we always cheat. Technically his ears should be bursting out the side of his hat. They always just draw the hat on his head and they stick the ears behind him. True. The audience just buys it. And they always want both ears visible at the same time. That really makes it look like Mickey. They don't like Mickey shown with one ear only. Now for the, no, you have both. Now, for the top of the hat, this is cloth and floppy. I'm going to build this out of curved lines. Let's bring a curve right up the side of that hat band there. On either side, curve and a curve. When you get this on straight, I'm going to use my center line. Watch this. Bring that center line right up. And all you need is a curved letter V. That's brought the center line up to help get it on straight. They wear hats just like this over on the Mark Twain. In that other park next door to us. If you get a chance to check it out. That's pretty old school too. I really like the Mark Twain. And since this is the captain's hat, there's a badge on this. It's just a straight line and a letter U. Oh man. We did this. There's one last thing you got to do here. You got to sign your name next to that. You just drew a little bit of Disney history, something we are super proud of around here. Mickey Mouse, as he first appeared in Steamboat Willie.